We live inside stories we never chose to believe. From the moment you draw your first breath, you begin absorbing an invisible architecture of assumptions, beliefs, and worldviews that will quietly govern your thoughts and actions for decades to come. Like fish unaware of water, you swim through life largely unconscious of the belief systems that shape your every perception, decision, and relationship. This isn't a flaw in human design, it's a feature. Your brain would collapse under the weight of examining every assumption, questioning every inherited truth, analyzing every cultural norm. You need your mental shortcuts, your inherited wisdom, your unconscious filters. But here lies one of humanity's most fascinating paradoxes. The very mechanisms that allow you to function efficiently also make you exquisitely vulnerable to manipulation, self-deception, and the perpetuation of harmful myths. Think about the last time someone challenged one of your fundamental beliefs. Remember that feeling, that discomfort, that resistance, that immediate urge to defend what you've always known to be true. That's your belief system protecting itself, and it's more powerful than you might imagine. Consider the extraordinary vulnerability of childhood. A young mind doesn't just learn facts, it absorbs entire worldviews through the casual remarks of parents, the subtle approval or disapproval that follows certain thoughts, the limited cast of characters that populate their early universe. Those people are different from us. Money doesn't grow on trees. Life isn't fair. Good things come to those who wait. These fragments of inherited wisdom lodge themselves deep in the developing psyche, not as mere opinions, but as fundamental truths about how reality operates. The child has no choice but to accept these downloads. They lack the cognitive tools to evaluate, compare, or question. They exist in a state of necessary dependence, learning that survival itself depends on conforming to the expectations and worldviews of their caregivers. This process operates through 4 devastating channels of vulnerability. First, the child's perceptions are radically limited. Their universe is tiny, their experience narrow. Second, dependence creates a powerful incentive for conformity. Third, their sources of information are catastrophically restricted. Finally, the psychological process of identification ensures that children do not just learn their parents' beliefs, they absorb them at the deepest level of identity formation. The result is a human being whose foundational assumptions about reality were installed during a period of maximum vulnerability and minimum critical thinking capacity. These beliefs don't feel like beliefs at all. They feel like facts about the nature of existence itself. But childhood indoctrination would be relatively easy to overcome if life offered you a diverse array of challenging perspectives as you matured. Instead, something far more insidious occurs. Your social structures conspire to provide you with consecutive waves of relatively like-minded associates. The neighborhood you grow up in determines your schools. Your schools shape your social circles. Your social circles influence your career choices. Your careers surround you with people who share similar backgrounds, values, and assumptions. Even your acts of rebellion tend to be variations on pre-existing themes rather than genuine alternatives. This creates what we might call the great reinforcement, a lifelong process, whereby your initial programming is continuously confirmed and strengthened by carefully curated experience. You don't seek out information that challenges your beliefs. You seek out information that confirms them. You don't befriend people who think differently. You befriend people who think like you. This process is so subtle and so universal that you mistake it for objective reality. You believe you're encountering the world as it truly is, when in fact you encountering a carefully filtered version of the world that your belief systems have pre-selected for you. The human nervous system cannot process all available information simultaneously. You must filter, select, and prioritize. This filtering process is not neutral. It's heavily influenced by your existing beliefs, expectations, and assumptions. Consider a simple example. You buy a new car, and suddenly you notice that same model everywhere. What changed was your perceptual set. Your attention became attuned to information that was previously filtered out. This same process operates constantly in more consequential ways. The committed environmentalist notices every instance of corporate pollution, while remaining blind to examples of sustainable innovation. The dedicated entrepreneur sees opportunity everywhere, while missing signs of exploitation. The religious believer perceives divine intervention while overlooking natural explanations. None of these people are lying or being deliberately deceptive. They're simply experiencing the inevitable consequence of having strong beliefs. Those beliefs shape what they are capable of perceiving. Their reality becomes increasingly self-confirming, not because reality itself is biased, but because their perception of reality is filtered through their pre-existing assumptions. Perhaps nowhere is your susceptibility to unquestioned beliefs more dramatically illustrated than in your relationship with authority. Think about the last time you followed instructions from someone in a position of power, a boss, a doctor, a teacher, a government official. How carefully did you question their reasoning? Most people believe they are independent moral agents who would refuse to harm innocent others regardless of who told them to do so. But psychological experiments have shattered this comforting belief. When ordinary people are placed in situations where authority figures pressure them to act against their moral instincts, the majority comply. What these studies revealed was that your belief in your own moral autonomy is itself an unquestioned assumption, and a dangerous one. Most people are not the independent moral agents they imagine themselves to be. They are highly susceptible to the influence of perceived authority, especially when that authority provides a framework that makes their actions seem reasonable. This susceptibility extends far beyond dramatic experiments. It operates in professional training, religious instruction, political movements, and cultural institutions. The medical student learns not just facts about anatomy, but entire frameworks for understanding health and disease. The business school graduate absorbs not just techniques, but complete worldviews about human motivation and market dynamics. Your vulnerability to unexamined beliefs extends even to the level of language itself. The words you use to describe reality don't just reflect your understanding, they shape it. The categories you employ, the distinctions you make, the metaphors you rely on all influence how you think and what you do. When you describe yourself as networking, you're adopting a framework that treats relationships as strategic resources. When companies talk about human resources, they're embedding assumptions about the nature of work and human dignity. When you label someone as learning disabled, you create expectations that influence how they're treated and how they see themselves. The labels you use don't just describe the world, they construct it. They create boundaries where none may naturally exist, impose order on ambiguous situations, and channel your thinking along predetermined paths. Perhaps nowhere is the power of unquestioned assumptions more clearly visible than in educational and social labeling. When a teacher is told that a student is a slow learner, that label doesn't just describe the student's current performance. It shapes the student's future development. The teacher, influenced by the label, unconsciously adjusts their expectations, their level of challenge, their investment of attention. The student, sensing these changed expectations, begins to internalize the implied identity. The label becomes a lens through which all subsequent performance is interpreted, creating a self-reinforcing cycle that transforms assumption into reality. The most insidious aspect of this process is that it appears to validate itself. The child labeled as slow does indeed learn slowly, seemingly confirming the accuracy of the original assessment. The self-fulfilling prophecy is so powerful that it erases the traces of its own operation. Here is what makes this entire phenomenon so fascinating. You're probably experiencing some resistance right now as you process this information. Part of your mind is generating counterarguments, exceptions, reasons why this doesn't apply to you or your beliefs. That resistance isn't a sign that you wrong to listen. It is a sign that we retouching on something fundamental about how your mind protects its existing structures. Understanding the pervasive influence of unquestioned beliefs is both liberating and disturbing. It's liberating because it reveals that many of the limitations you experience are not inevitable facts about reality, but changeable assumptions about what is possible. It's disturbing because it suggests that much of what you consider to be your authentic self may actually be a collection of inherited programs you never consciously chose. The path forward is not to somehow eliminate all assumptions and beliefs that would be impossible and counterproductive. Instead, is to develop what we might call assumption awareness, the ability to recognize when you're reoperating from unexamined beliefs, and to consciously choose which assumptions serve you and which don't. This requires developing comfort with uncertainty, the capacity to hold multiple possibilities simultaneously, and the courage to question beliefs that feel like facts. It means learning to distinguish between information and knowledge, between what you've been told and what you've verified, between what everyone believes and what's actually true. Most importantly, it requires recognizing that beliefs are tools, not truths. They're useful when they help you navigate the world effectively and connect meaningfully with others. They become dangerous when they rigidify into dogma, when they blind you to alternative possibilities, or when they justify harm to yourself or others. The goal is not to become a skeptic who believes nothing, but to become a conscious believer who chooses their beliefs deliberately, holds them lightly, and remains open to revision when new evidence suggests that change is warranted. In a world where information travels at the speed of light and change happens at an exponential pace, this kind of cognitive flexibility may be one of your most important survival skills. Those who can question their assumptions, update their beliefs, and adapt their worldviews will thrive. Those who remain trapped in unexamined beliefs may find themselves increasingly disconnected from an evolving reality. The invisible architecture of mind need not remain invisible forever. With awareness, intention, and practice, you can begin to see the structures that shape your thinking, and in seeing them, you gain the power to change them. This is perhaps the most profound form of freedom available to human beings. The freedom to choose your beliefs rather than being chosen by them. So the next time you find yourself absolutely certain about something, pause for a moment. Ask yourself, where did this certainty come from? What experiences shaped it? What alternatives am I not seeing? What would I believe if I had grown up in a different family, a different culture, a different time? The answers might surprise you. And in that surprise, you might find the first glimpse of genuine freedom.